All right, so welcome! Welcome to Keeping Friendship Magic, the Pursuit of Power. For those who don't know me, my name is Forward Progress. I am a social scientist heralding here from the beautiful state of Pennsylvania. Currently with Penn State University, going to be moving on into some graduate work next year. If you know any good schools, let me know. Basically, this whole project here, the whole purpose I have of this is getting involved in this fandom has literally changed my life. I could talk about it for hours, but that's going to happen on Sunday. Shameless plug for Ponies and You, how MLP affects our lives. But when I went to my first pony convention, I left it with the most hope that I've ever had for the human race. Period. Flat out. I was like, these are my people! They get it! This is possible! We can do this! Then I went on the internet afterwards and it all went downhill. But, I looked at what we were doing in the fandom, and while the fandom's not perfect, there's a lot of great things that can come from the show and what we as a community do that I think we can really bring into our own lives, and it really plays into a lot of social science. And my real belief is that by linking the two, we can increase what we do and our impact on the world that much further. So, my belief, this changed. This slide used to say that bronies have the power to change the world. Still believe that, but I've altered this. Okay, how many of you saw the show and thought, oh my gosh, a show that finally gets it? Or when you met other bronies were like, these people, they get me, they're my people. I have a feeling a lot of us did that. And when I reflected on this recently, because I did a qualitative study on a local brony group, it occurred to me that this is very common amongst us, and it really occurred to me that we are really a sign of the capability for the world to change. That there is a change movement going on in our thought processes, that doesn't have to be all gloom and doom. We can have Technicolor horses and have lessons about friendship and have that be okay. Now, the whole world doesn't have to watch Technicolor horses. They should, but they don't have to. But we hold the power to something that could be big. And so I always open with that because I really believe in us. I believe in you, and you, and you. I do. I'm also a giant sap, by the way.
I believe in Santa Christ.
What? Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Okay, so today we're going to talk about power. And not only what drives people and ponies to seek it out, but also what happens when ponies achieve that power. So I want everybody to kind of think in your head, take note of the qualities and factors that we're going to talk about that prompted all of these characters to seek out power. And what you're going to find is they're not really unique or extreme examples. In fact, these are ponies who are driven by the very same instincts that drive us at the core of our being. So I'm starting this panel off with a quote. You're probably familiar with this quote or some variation of it, is that all power tends to corrupt and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And it's a pretty powerful statement and something I think is worth keeping in the back of our minds as we go through the panel. We will be returning to this quote later. It's just something I want you guys to start thinking about now. So, to properly begin our journey, this was supposed to be a surprise, but spoiler alert, we already played it.
Some of it.
It's true. So, since this is the beginning of the panel, I figured we'd start at the beginning.
Once upon a time, in the magical land of Equestria, there were two regal sisters who ruled together and created harmony for all the land. To do this, the eldest used her unicorn powers to raise the sun at dawn. The younger brought out the moon to begin the night. Thus, the two sisters maintained balance for their kingdom and their subjects, all the different types of ponies. But as time went on, the younger sister became resentful. The ponies relished and played in the day her elder sister brought forth, but shunned and slept through her beautiful night. One fateful day, the younger unicorn refused to lower the moon to make way for the dawn. The elder sister tried to reason with her, but the bitterness in the young one's heart had transformed her into a wicked mare of darkness, Nightmare Moon. She vowed that she would shroud the land in eternal night. Reluctantly, the elder sister harnessed the most powerful magic known to ponydom, the elements of harmony. Using the magic of the elements of harmony, she defeated her younger sister and banished her permanently in the moon. The elder sister took on responsibility for both sun
and moon, and harmony has been maintained in Equestria for generations since.
I love the premiere of this show. I don't know about the rest of you, but I think it's one of the best series premieres that I've ever seen. So, we're going to start talking with Luna here. And so Friendship is Magic began with Nightmare Moon's power grab to banish Celestia and rule over Equestria. And as the introductory video showed, one of the main driving forces, if my computer wants to work, behind Luna's transformation into Nightmare Moon was that of resentment. Luna's existence consisted daily of raising the moon at night, only to have all of her subjects shun that night that she brought forth. They all went to bed, while in the day with Celestia, they all got to relish and play. So, essentially, her whole role was basically like, I get to rule over a kingdom that's asleep. Now, if you think about this, every day for Luna basically was, all the ponies were social with her sister. They got to be out, they got to socialize, they got to be all that. So during the day, it's one way, and then they disappear at night. I can only imagine that that would bring some loneliness along with it as well. I mean, let's face it, if day after day you had to endure a lonely existence while your sister got to be the toast of the town, it's very understandable that you'd develop some resentment there. And probably some envy, too. Obviously, it's one of the big things with Nightmare Moon, because Nightmare Moon wanted to have that which Celestia had. She wanted to have the ponies up, and she wanted to be treated in that way. Now, one of the things that we really can pull from is back when we had her transform into Nightmare Moon in the first place.
Did you really expect me to sit idly by while they all basked in your precious light?
Precious light?
There can only be one princess in Equestria, and that princess will be me!
There's one last thing I have on here, and I bring this up partially to discuss, but partially as an open-ended birth order. The fact that Luna is the youngest of these two. It's something I originally wasn't going to have in this panel, and then I was speaking with a friend about this one day, and he is the youngest of his family. And he was like, oh my gosh, I relate so much to Luna being the youngest and what she had to go through. I'm like, tell me more. So basically what he talked about was the fact that being the youngest, at least for him, meant that he had expectations his entire life. Going into class with teachers who had had his older brother or sister, who was very much like the, oh, you're such and such's brother. Oh, we're expecting great things from you. There is an expectation that Luna's had to live with, and a shadow that she falls under that's created by the brightness that Celestia holds. Now, the younger sister versus older sister concept is something we've seen in the show other than just Luna and Celestia. We've also seen it with our friend Sweetie Belle. Probably somebody you didn't think I was going to bring up in this panel. So let's see how it affected Miss Sweetie Belle.
I wish there was a way I could take back all the work I did. Even better.
That is a really malicious laugh, sweetie. Okay, so there's two other concepts, and these also play into Luna going into Nightmare Moon, but specifically to this situation especially, it's anger and frustration. You already have that resentment because you have that older sibling who's outshining you that you can't live up to, no matter how hard you try. And then you add, in this episode, whom the Sweetie Belle toils, Sweetie Belle had that effect of just the frustration of being outshined, not being able to get the spotlight in that moment of that play that she put on, that everybody was paying attention to Rarity and not her. And frustration leads to anger, and anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering.
That's back to the dark side.
You knew it was going to come up eventually. The interesting thing, and one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this episode, is that this is Sweetie Belle's dream episode. Luna in this episode comes to Sweetie Belle and talks to her directly about the fact that she knows what it's like to be outshined by a sister who is brighter than she is. I think I almost got that quote right, maybe a little off. And then later, when she shows Sweetie Belle what the end effect of her actions would be, the one thing she says, and this was kind of powerful to me, is that see what happens if you allow yourself to give in to your worst instincts in the same way that I once did. Luna knows that all of this that helped her to become Nightmare Moon were the worst characteristics, the worst instincts, and they're basic human instincts. We all get envious, we all get frustrated, we all get angry. We don't all turn into a demon who's going to banish our sister to the moon, unfortunately, though. So, it's something to keep in mind. These are very basic instincts that these ponies have that we have as well. So, we're going to move on from Luna. We're going to talk about another pony who definitely likes some power, and that is Trixie! Now, when Trixie, a couple of you are probably thinking, okay, I know exactly what Trixie's motivations are, because she said it. Okay, let's see what she said.
What is it? I heard what Twilight said about me, and she's right. I wasn't very nice. So I'd understand if you didn't want to be friends. Are you kidding? You're the first pony I've met who has any idea how I feel. Can you keep a secret? What are friends for? The things I've done, I did them because I was jealous of Twilight. She's just the best at everything, and I wanted to beat her at something. Your secret's safe with me. Thanks.
So, jealousy. You are right that jealousy did definitely have something to play in Trixie's actions. However, Trixie did not always know Twilight. I would say jealousy definitely came into play with the Alicorn amulet more than anything else. Once Trixie was shown up, in her opinion, by Twilight with the Ursa Minor, and she felt ashamed going from town to town, with that following her, she became jealous, and jealousy led to being vengeful. Now, Trixie's a more complicated character than that, though. And one concept I want to talk about, and this is a concept that I have been thinking about this concept for a long time, and it's, what does it mean to be the best? Because it seems with Trixie, she really wants to be the best. So, I mean, what does that mean?
I knew that.
Dang it! Not that!
You beat me to it, Jared. Yeah, I was about to do that. Thank you for the for me. Thank you, Zero.
You beat us to the punch. Me. Okay. But in all seriousness, being the best. And it's a question I've asked a lot, and I don't have a solid answer, but I think it's worth discussing. And it's worth some bit of self-reflection on. Because we as humans do something that's called social comparison. And what that essentially means is that we are constantly comparing ourselves to everyone and everything else around us. Even if you think you're not, you are unconsciously, because it's how you form your opinions about the world, it's how you develop who you are. As you grow from a child, you have to look at the world around you and figure out a way to make it make sense to you and formulate your opinions and make yourself a fully fledged person. Now, what we do, and it's a cause of a lot of things, is we will group things into categories and start comparing ourselves to those around us. And not only those around us, but, who doesn't compare yourself to X person you saw in a magazine or on the TV? It's like, oh, I could do that, but ... It's that comparison between you and them, and it's how you formulate who you are. So then, since we are comparing, does the best mean that we are better than everyone else, or does the best mean that we are being the best that we can be, physically, within ourselves? And I think it's a question everybody needs to ask themselves as far as, what's your motivation when you say you want to be the best? Because Ash certainly wants to be the best that no one ever was. So, now we don't really look at Ash as an evil character, but he just really wants to be the best, like no one ever was. So, does that mean that he's doing the best of his game, his Pokemon battling game? Is that the best in the world because he's reached his full potential? Or is he only so good as to get to, let's say he doesn't beat the Elite Four for once. I don't know, I haven't watched the anime in years. But, let's say he doesn't beat the Elite Four. Does that mean he's not his best? Maybe that is his max potential. And it's kind of something to just contemplate within yourselves. It's a matter of, in any situation, do you have to be stronger, better, etc., like stronger than that other person? Or is the strength knowing yourself and being to the best of your ability? So it's always something I like to keep in mind. I don't have the fully fledged answer to this. But I'd like to bring it up in here, partially because I don't get to talk about it much, and you guys are all basically just sitting and listening to me. But Trixie, let's get back to Trixie. Obviously Trixie wants to be the best. She wants to be better than Twilight. That's a big thing.
Like no one ever was.
And I did that joke 3 times. Stop it.
That's the last one.
But hubris. Hubris is Trixie's kind of just Achilles heel, so to speak. If you don't know what the term hubris is, there we go. Hubris means excessive pride or self-confidence. In some synonyms there, arrogance, conceit, haughtiness, self-importance, egotism. I don't know. Do you think that matches Trixie? You think? Maybe? So yeah, I think hubris works for Trixie. It's a thing to think about too. It's a matter of, because she really looked up to Houdini, and that's another thing. It's a matter of, it is really good to have your idols and to actually, there has been studies done that having somebody a sense of adoration is actually healthy for development. But let's face it, in No Second Princes, she darn near kills herself in her attempt to be just like Houdini. And it's another, so it's another thing. She made her power grabs in the series from a sense of jealousy, from a sense of needing to match that level. So if you're going to destroy so many people in the process. Another thing to think about. So since I was showing Trixie and Starlight, I thought we'd talk about Starlight Glimmer.
Sunburst and I did everything together. In fact, I don't remember us ever being apart. Until today. Just like that, my friend was gone. His family recognized his magical talent and sent him off to Canterlot. I never saw him again.
Well, why not?
Because of his cutie mark! He got his, and I didn't. He moved on, and I didn't! I stayed here and never made another friend because I was too afraid another cutie mark would take them away too!
So, by the way, I don't know. I always like the fact that he got his cutie mark from bookshelving. I swear, when they said he was going to be in the crystalline, I half expected him to be running the library.
Shelving all the books.
So, Starlight Glimmer, we know Starlight Glimmer made a big power grab move in the series. I know, spoiler alert.
Moose.
Rejection.
Hi, Rocky!
No. From a very young age, Starlight felt rejected. The second that happened with Sunburst, and he was whisked away, like pretty much literally whisked away from her. Second he got outside, it's like, oh, no, you're going with us. We're going to Canterlot. Goodbye. That's to fold Starlight Glimmer. That was devastating. That rejection hit hard. And as somebody who didn't have very many friends as a child, when you lost that one friend that you did everything with, it hits home hard. I know some people looks at this episode, I've talked with some who are kind of like, seriously, she just lost one friend and she enslaved an entire village. Look at the timetable and look at who she was, though. Not having any other friends, just having that one friend, being more sensitive, that can be highly devastating. I know myself personally, when I was a child, I had a friend who turned into a giant bully and basically was a giant jerk. And that hurt. It hurt a lot. It would have hurt, you know, just to not see him anymore, but to have him basically taken away from that one role he filled in life and put into another was really traumatizing to me as a child. So having that, I can definitely empathize with Starlight here, where Sunburst may not have been a bully, having, you know, put your world into him and have that taken away, that can be a real downer, and it can put a lot of fear into you. The one thing that Starlight said in that past clip is that Starlight was afraid to make another friend. She was afraid to reach out again in that way, because she felt the second she did, she was going to get hurt again, because another pony's cutie mark would pop up and boom, gone, just like that. So what was her solution? Let's enslave a whole village of ponies. It's a little bit of a stretch, but let's face it. This is from when she was a filly. So from when she's a filly to the point where she gets there, she devotes her life to studying the magic to make it such that this would never happen again. Granted, I don't think any of us would go that far, but you never know. I'm looking at you. Starlight Glimmer wanted one thing above all else because of this, because of the fear, because of the rejection. She wanted control. She wanted to make sure that this couldn't happen again. That if she was going to make new friends, if she was going to move forward in her life like this, she wanted complete control over the situation. And that is Starlight Glimmer's character and motivation more than anything else, is that I hurt, and I want to do everything in my power to make sure I don't hurt anymore. I'm going to have control over my own destiny and those that I put in it.
How could you? You said cutie marks were evil. You said special talents led to pain and heartache.
They do, don't you see? Look at them!
Then why? Why did you take ours and not give up your own?
I had to, you fools! How could I collect your cutie marks without my magic?
But the staff has all the magic we need!
The staff is a piece of wood I found in the desert. It's my magic that makes all this possible. You'd all still be living your miserable lives thinking you're better than every pony else if it weren't for my magical abilities. I brought you friendship. I brought you equality. I created harmony!
You lied to us!
So what? Everything else I said is true. The only way to be happy is if we're all equal.
The only way to be happy is if we're all equal. Control. Now, we're going to come back to that piece in a little bit. We're going to talk about Starlight in the finale. Revenge. Starlight in the season 5 finale had really only one motivation in mind, and it was revenge against Twilight. Starlight started from being hurt as a filly, spent her whole life making this village that she could control, and had it all taken away from her. She retreated within and built up her rage, and waited until that moment to strike.
You're so predictable. Why else would I leave the scroll behind? Touching it triggered the map to whisk you here and watch me erase the one thing that linked you with your friends. My village was a sanctuary of equality where no pony's cutie mark allowed them to feel superior. It was a special place, and you and your friends took it away. Now it's my turn to take something special from you! Without the rain boom, you and your friends will never form your special cutie mark bond. Cutie marks for cutie marks! Sounds like a fair trade to me.
The thing about that episode is that Starlight is so blinded. She has been hurt so much that her mind is filled with nothing but revenge for most of that episode until they get to that wasteland where there is literally nothing left. And she is only left with the, oh my gosh, what have I done moment. I believe there was a term for that you used this morning.
The heel realization.
Heel realization that, oh my gosh, in trying to do all this, I'm just hurting everything around me. And it's my fault. Not until then did she have that. She had so filled with rage. I'll admit, I've had my fair share of rageful moments in my life. Almost 2 weeks ago when 28 Pranks Later aired, but that's a whole other side story.
Oh, God.
What?
When it comes to Starlight, there's an interesting theory I want to talk about. It's called self-affirmation theory. What this theory is about is it's a social science theory essentially saying about how we come up with our own self-concept and affirm who we are. I had a professor one time say to me that 90% of all human behavior can be explained by trying to protect your own self-esteem. It's true. Even things that you think like, oh gosh, I know somebody who has the worst self-esteem, they're always putting themselves down. Guess what? That counts too. Because it's a way of protecting yourself. Well, how do you protect the world from getting you down?
You do it to
yourself.
Oh.
With Starlight, with the self-affirmation here, essentially what happens is that when she was rejected, it formed very much a me versus the world moment. I don't have this that this person has. This cutie mark thing is going to rip people apart. The problem has to be with that. The problem has to be with them. It's an in-group versus out-group. In-group being those that you associate with and hold close, and out-group being everyone else, us against the world. It happens time and time again. We see this in a lot of our social problems that we have. And we tend to do this. We have an election coming up.
Oh, God. Don't even say that.
That's all I'm going to say. That's really all I have to say, though, because let's face it, there is a group of people that say everybody on this side is wrong, and there's a group of people over here that says everybody on that side is wrong, and that's all they do. It's part of the reason. There's lots of reasons, but part of it, from a psychological standpoint, is that matter of maintaining your own self-esteem. These are my ideals. This is what I hold precious to me, and a lot of times it's hard to change that. And that's one of those things that I think it's worth thinking about for all of us, is that a couple weeks, okay, I'm going to tell this story. So 2 weeks ago, 28 Pranks later aired, and I hated it. It's one of the only Pony episodes I can ever say that about. I got literally angry about it. He knows, I did. I did. I had a whole, I talked for about an hour about that episode with my roommates. And afterwards, I stopped and I looked at myself and went, what the heck is wrong with me? What am I doing? Why am I doing this? Isn't this the one thing that I'm trying to tell people not to do? Is not to divide over something as simple as the writing of an episode or the fact that Fluttershy shouldn't have been pranked by Rainbow Dash in that first scene. Anyway, that was the joke. But this is the point, though, is I need to go within myself. And I'm nothing special, I'll say that. But the one thing is I feel like I've grown a lot since I've started becoming involved with this fandom, since I started learning more about social science. Because the more that I know about how my mind works, the more that I can look within myself in a situation and go, you know, I can see why I reacted that way. I can work to make myself better. So we all do these things. We all get in that moment of that fight or flight moment, essentially, and then we let ourselves build upon it. Whereas if we took a moment and we stepped back and said, you know I'm just trying to protect myself. What's really at stake here? What's really worth it to me? Can I find ways to make compromise? And I did. I found my compromise with the episode. It's not my favorite episode, but you know what? There's people that like it. It's fine. I don't begrudge them, and I actually found ways of looking at it and go, okay, that's good and that's good. So, these things can happen. By the way, you're entitled to your own opinions about all episodes. So, I have one other character I want to talk about before we wrap things up. I'm going to let Celestia explain who that is.
Sunset Shimmer, a former student of mine. She began her studies with me not long before Twilight. But when she did not get what she wanted as quickly as she liked, she turned cruel and dishonest. I tried to help her, but she eventually decided to abandon her studies and pursue her own path, one that has sadly led her to stealing your crown.
Sunset Shimmer. Now, if you attended the heel face turn panel this morning, I'm sorry, you're going to see the same clips again.
Sorry, forward.
But there's no wrestling in this one.
Much the shame.
John Cena! I had to. I'm sorry.
Out. No, you're good, man. Sunset Shimmer is honestly one of my favorite characters from anything. Definitely my favorite character from Equestria Girls. Her arc in what I consider to be the opening trilogy, so to speak, to I used to say trilogy, and then I got Legend of Everfree was coming out, and I had to be opening trilogy, which works with Stranger Than Fanfiction, believe it or not. So the opening trilogy was the best, but just call me Quibble Pants. But Sunset's arc makes a complete trilogy story in those 3 films. Sunset's #1 driving force is really ambition. Sunset Shimmer is ambitious to a fault. She wants it, she really wants it, but in the words of Apple Bloom talking about her cutie mark, I want it now! You know, she knew there was a way. She felt that she was entitled to it. She had the ambition to go get it. And she went, you know what, Celestia? Talk to the hoof. I'm going over here. Invades a whole other world and looks for any way she can find to get the power. Sunset wants power. With Sunset, the ambition means that her motivation for power is power. Is power itself. She wants it more than anything else that's out there. She gets it too. As we see in one of our first scenes with her as a human.
You shouldn't pick up things that don't belong to you.
It doesn't really belong to you either.
Excuse me?
Nothing.
That's what I thought. It's as good as mine, and you know it. You really are pathetic. It's no wonder your best friends are all stray animals.
How dare you speak to her that way?
What did you say?
I said, how dare you speak to her that way?
You must be new here. I can speak to anyone any way I want.
Sunset has the power in that world already when we meet her in that world. She's figured out the way to climb to the top of that social hierarchy and maintain it, where nobody sees her as a problem as far as faculty goes there. You know, Luna and Celestia and them aren't being like, oh gosh, that Sunset Shimmer, she's always in detention. No, she's a model student. But behind the scenes, she's like one of the cast of Mean Girls. I really should have made a slide for that. I like that joke. And that's where we know that this is not far-fetched. How many people think that their high school experience sucked? I see hands. But how many people knew people like that in high school? Yes. And it's one of those things, like, it's hard for me to watch now that I'm in my 30s and go like, God, people are really like that, especially teenagers. Sounds a little ageist of me, but we lived it, dang it. It's true.
Teenagers are terrible people.
Including myself back in the day. So, with Sunset, when she went over there, she'd given up. She went, I need this now. I don't care what it takes to get me there. I'm going to get it. So when she enters into this role, she's not seeing, essentially, that this is completely wrong. She's kind of blinded to that fact. And she feels it's entitled to her. It was what was promised to her. Power was promised to her in Equestria. That if she studied, she could get there with her magical abilities, with Celestia. She wasn't getting it. She went to this new world. She started getting something, and you know what? Just not satisfied at that. We need more. We need an element of harmony to exacerbate this, to make it stronger. Now, we all know Sunset manages to get it eventually.
More power than I could ever imagine.
Sunset Shimmer's transformation is arguably the most powerful thing in that film because it tells you so much in that short clip. When Sunset Shimmer starts transforming, she has a look of, oh my god. She starts crying during the transformation. She's in pain. She doesn't realize that she's blinded herself from that fact of, am I ready for this? She doesn't care. She thinks she's ready for it. And all of a sudden, her plans just go from having power to, I'm going to enslave all of Equestria using my slave teenage army. So I bring us back to the quote that we had from earlier about, all power tends to corrupt and absolute power corrupts absolutely. This scene almost goes to show you that this is probably true if you just go off this scene. Because Sunset had power, it corrupted her to seek more power, and that was absolute power, and what did it do? It corrupted her absolutely. Now that being said, that's not my final say on that matter. Let's take a look at what happens shortly thereafter transforming. Another one of my favorite scenes.
Any power you may have had in this world is gone. Tonight, you've shown everyone who you really are. You've shown them what is in your heart. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know there was another way.
I didn't know there was another way. And she was just blinded to the fact that there was another way. Another way was presented to her and she couldn't take it. She couldn't see that the magic of friendship would be what would lead her down that road. It wasn't until she started to see it in the subsequent films, in Rainbow Rocks and Friendship Games, that she started to see what friendship could do. That friendship is a power that's different from the rest. Friendship does hold power. Uniting together holds power. Now granted, we could unite in different ways. We could unite and throw a riot right now. Please don't. we could start rioting right now. And would we have an impact? Would we have power in that moment? Absolutely. It would be destructive power. Or, we as a fandom can unite, talk about the magic of friendship, talk about the lessons we learned from the show, talk about the fact that, hey, guess what? We really can get along. I know, it's shocking, right? But that magic of that, transforming those around us, continues to spread. There's a thing in social science called the law of three, where if you can change the mind of someone you know, you didn't just change that person's mind. You changed that person's mind and some of their friends, and some of their friends' friends, and some of their friends' friends' friends. It goes 3 levels. Them, their friends' friends, right? Them, their friends, their friends' friends. It keeps going at least to that level in multiples of 3, at least. Sometimes it'll be more. But it's that idea of if you can affect real social change, you can start a domino effect. It takes a while. There are 300 million people in this country, and bronies are not exclusive to America. I've met some fantastic people in this fandom from around the world. We have a tall order ahead of us. But by staying together, staying united, knowing ourselves, and getting over our smaller conflicts, instead of trying to make power grabs over one another, we really have some power to change the world for the better. So what do we think? Does all power tend to corrupt? Maybe. But I would argue that the power that lies in the magic of friendship is a greater power than that which is described in this quote. A power that took our little she-demon into this.
This isn't the way! I know you feel powerful right now, like you can have everything you want. I've been where you are. I've made the same mistake you're making. I put on a crown, and just like you, I was overwhelmed by the magic it contained. I thought it could get me everything I wanted.
Oh, you're wrong. Unlike you, I can have everything I want.
No, you can't. Even with all that magic and power, you'll still be alone. True magic comes from honesty, loyalty, laughter, generosity, kindness. I understand you, Twilight, and I want to show you the most important magic of all. The magic of friendship.
What was that?
Heroes never die.
Overwatch.
Daydream Shimmer.
Yay!
I had a fangasm when this happened. Oh my gosh. I was like, oh my god, she's the element of magic in the human world. Oh my god, and it's wonderful. And like, I freaked out. They were there.
She proved herself worthy.
And the man has a point. She found it the right way. She took her time, she looked in herself, and she trusted in her friends. We all have something in common. We're all bronies. At least I assume so. If you're not, you may have come to the wrong convention. Actually, no, you came to the right convention. Join us. And that's another thing, though, and I'll be talking more about this maybe tomorrow, we'll see. But it's a thing I started talking about, is that these lessons, this movement, because I consider being a brony to be a social movement. We are more than just fans of a show. We have a belief. We really value this community and what it stands for. So, there are other fandoms out there that definitely aren't talking about the matching friendship. Does that mean that they don't have things to offer, though, and that we don't have things to offer them? I think we do. I think we have a lot we can all learn from one another. So there's a thing of saying that just because somebody is not a brony, but they're a furry, or they're a Trekkie, or a... yes, and like half of that list I am too. So, but, you know, we have the power to influence more. Doesn't mean we're going to get everybody to be a huge fan of the show and binge 6 seasons in one night. In fact, I'm pretty certain that's impossible to get through in 24 hours.
It is.
Longest running Hasbro show ever, thanks to us.
Woo! We did it!
We did it, yes.
Victory is ours. Yay!
Give that man a cookie.
Okay.
So, we have the power. You have the power. I have it. All of us do. What are we going to do with it in the end?
Who's the one who gets a cookie?
I don't... Who said yay? That man gets a cookie. Give yourself one, too, for giving him a cookie. You're awesome. So, that's pretty much what I've got. I love you guys for coming, but I do have one more thing. Does anybody feel like singing?
Singing what?
What song?
Which song are we doing?
Guess.
Power was all I desired, but all that grew inside me was a darkness I acquired. When I began to fall and I lost the path ahead,
words, asking questions or anything, feel free. I also have business cards up here. Tomorrow I am doing another TV Friendship Magic panel. The odd pony out, I think it's 11:30? Check your schedule. Come see me for the odd pony out.
Which
and then,
room?
This room. And also tomorrow night I will be part of Quibble's Corner, where we're going to quibble about pony. So thank you, wonderful people.